This is Jeff Mucci from RCR Wireless News. We're in Palo Alto, meeting with David Ginsburg, who is VP of Marketing for Innopath. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
In the briefing, you said you help carriers sleep better at night. How do you do that?
So in the past, when a user with a smartphone called into the help desk at, say, a Tier 1 operator, the help desk was running blind. A person had an email problem, a browser problem, their battery was draining too quickly.
Sure.
And there was no live over-the-air connection. So it was just, press this, try that. Half an hour later, maybe the problem was resolved, maybe not. Very low first call resolution.
Right.
And what we offer operators for the first time, we really invented a live active care link between the help desk and the user's smartphone. And through that link, the help desk has a real-time view of the phone, its configuration settings. If they notice that something's wrong with email, they can push down corrected settings. And the whole goal here is reduce average hold times, handling times, increase first call resolution, will reduce operational expenses, and in the end, it's a better customer experience. The customer's satisfied.
What is the typical cost per engagement with a client? So if someone does call in with an email problem or a browser setting problem, what is that typical engagement cost to carrier?
So what happens is lots of these calls are escalated to the second or third tier automatically.
Right.
And industry reports, some of the analysts we work with, anywhere from $1 to $2 per minute. And if a call's 20, 30 minutes, it's easily a $20, $30, $40 call.
Right.
What we can do on the use cases that we handle, on the types of calls we handle, we could shave $20, $25 off that single call, and obviously that has a major impact on the lifetime profitability of the customer.
So who do you sell to today?
We sell to two parties, primarily Tier 1 operators who deploy our server platform. It's the Active Care server, and they also deploy the capability to push our clients out to the phones in their network. For example, they've got BlackBerries, Androids, Symbian phones, Windows phones. They don't have our client in advance. They can push our Active Care client and enable this end-to-end next-generation care environment. We also have a client business. This is on the back of where the company got its start in providing firmware updates.
Right.
So we provide a firmware update agent to the likes of Nokia or LG or Samsung or Pantech, and this they embed on their phones before they actually go into the operator's network. And that firmware agent's kind of important. In 2009, to use one example, we pushed over 3.5 million successful updates to phones just amongst two major North American operators. And you can imagine the operational savings, the impact on bugs and security, and the overall customer satisfaction impact.
That's great. Are you venture-backed? Tell me a little bit about how you're funding operations today.
So we're a private company,
right?
About 200 people. They call it like micro-international, if you want to call it. Most of our research and development's here in Sunnyvale. We have low-cost venue in Beijing, and we have operational teams co-located with our major customers. Our last funding round was in the spring of 2006, Series D, and we've been profitable for about 2.5 years now.
What type of devices do you support?
So there's really two categories. We've been talking about smartphones because, back to your original question, that's what keeps operators up at night, how you provide support for smartphones. And our client can be loaded onto the Windows Phone, not 7 yet, that's not out, but Symbian can be loaded onto Android, very important, especially in North America right now, and can be loaded onto the BlackBerry. By the end of the first half of the year, we'll have iPhone support. And we also can be loaded onto some of the high-end feature phones. Increasingly important part of the market, operators call them 3G texting phones or 3G multimedia phones, lots of times based on Brew. So our client can live on those as well.
That's great. So what can we expect new from Innopath in 2010?
2009 was really a year of execution on the promise of Active Care. We announced it in February 2009. Engaged with a couple Tier 1 operators for deployment or for proving out the ROI model. Last week in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress, we announced enhancements to the product, including additional device operating system supported. I can go into a GSM operator now and provide what we call mobile activate. It's when a person first comes into the network with a new phone, you want to have it configured properly for data services.
Right.
These are high revenue data services. So now we can play a much greater role in the entire life cycle of the device. And the other thing that we announced and will be deploying through the course of this year is the ability to push updates to different types of operating systems. For example, Android. And if I take a step back in time, when we got our start in firmware management, it was really feature phones, simpler devices, smaller package sizes, we call them. Through 2010, what operators have told us is they want to have the single platform to push updates to all of their open OS devices, the Androids and the Symbians and the Windows phones. So, if I sum that up, it's really completing the promise of the Phase 1 product. Beyond 2010, looking into things like call avoidance, additional intelligence on the client. There's a lot of places we can go once we get this foundation in place within the operators.
Would you mind showing us a demo of what a customer service rep might see using Innopath?
Sure. So one of the most important things that can happen in the call is adding efficiency when a person's first, on the IVR. They dial in. The frontline help desk, the CSR needs to understand a live view of the device, what's happening with the battery, what's happening with memory, what's happening with what applications are running. And so what we offer is something called mobile check as part of our active care solution. And this is really the first stage where instead of the CSR spending 5, 6, 7 minutes asking the customer for everything from phone model to OS revision to an IMEI, as it's called, which is sometimes useful in troubleshooting. They can pulse the device over the air and gather this data. And so what I've actually shown here is a live output. We've got a BlackBerry 9700 here. It's one of the operating systems we support. During the IVR, the device can be pulsed for this real-time data. It appears in the CSR's, front screen, in a window along with all their other, knowledge bases and account history. And this really lets them get a jump on the entire troubleshooting, regime with the customer.
Great. Show us how it works.
So what I did, it was the result of a pulse here. If I go back to the main, what you're seeing here are the types of actions that are permitted by the frontline CSR using our active care server. And this may involve, changing email settings. It may involve, toggling Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi on the phone. It could involve locking and wiping the device if something went wrong and the device is lost.
So as a customer service rep could actually take control of the device, and it's a command and control capability.
No, it's not really a remote control or remote view, but it is a way of pulling up real-time parameters from the phone, checking them against known profiles, and then sending down corrections if it's required. So what I'm doing now is the device pulse that I spoke of, where I'm going out over the network. In fact, laptop connected to our server in Sunnyvale, server in Sunnyvale connecting actually to an SMSC in London, and we're pulsing the device over the 3G infrastructure, pulling up the real-time view of its battery, of the applications that are running, of its memory state, of its OS revision. And these are all parameters that can then be compared against the knowledge base to really give the CSR a jump start in resolving the call the first time, aiding in first call resolution.
And if I'm the user, am I on the phone while you're doing this, actually talking to you on the mobile phone?
Yeah, there's two things that can happen depending upon whether the network supports voice and data simultaneously. If it does, then the user is live on the phone to the help desk, and then this is happening in the background. If the network doesn't, one option is for the user to call in from a landline.
Okay, great. What carriers are you serving today?
So there's a couple sets of customers, as I pointed out, both from the handset side and from the operator side. So on the handset side, customers include Nokia, Sony Ericsson, LG, Samsung, Pantech, some of the smaller ones. And these are people who purchase our client and install it on the phone. On the operator side, customers include Verizon, include AT&T, include Sprint, a couple operators in Japan, where we really got our start in providing firmware updates. We're in China Telecom. And then one of the most exciting operators right now is Tata Docomo. And this is the GSM arm of Tata in India. We're partners in the activation of their GSM network in June of 2009. And just in, say, 8 short months, they've grown to over 27 million subscribers using our mobile activate solution. It's phenomenal growth, and they're taking the market by storm there.
Great. What else should our readers know about Innopath?
I think we solve a key problem. I'll go back to the point. What are operators worried about? They have to regain control of their devices. They have to understand what's happening out there on their subscribers, on the devices that they've marketed, on their network infrastructure, and they need the tools in place to better react to this. And what we do is provide something really critical that they've not had in the past that allows them to regain this operational control. And net, it's not only the cost savings that are important, not only the efficiency savings, first call resolution as I highlighted, but it's also the whole aspect of customer satisfaction and reduction of churn. And I think there are a couple areas that operators invest in. One is the pure network infrastructure, things like LTE. I'm not an LTE vendor, but they also invest in network transformation. And if we look at CRM and we look at the cost of frontline care, cost of frontline care, it's over $25 billion annually. Operators invest over $10 billion a year in CRM systems. And so we play a part of that critical market for the Tier 1 operator.
Great. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Good.